Hello, everyone. This is Kiki. My pronouns are she, her, and I am one of your co-hosts of the Bleeding Metal podcast. Welcome to another episode that is going to be fragmented because I am still reporting from Quito, Ecuador, where I have been since late December. And in mid-January, I started my volunteering work. For those of you who have been listening to the podcast for a while, you will know that this is my third volunteering mission over here in Ecuador. I try to do this from time to time to spend a little more time here in the country I grew up in and where I come from, and of course visit friends and family. But I also try to give back, and I've been working with different organizations and different projects, but all the times, these 3 times, it's been with women's rights. It's been work that I've been doing towards furthering women's rights and reaching equality. This time, I'm actually working at the Ministry for Women's Rights and Human Rights, and we are working on a project that certifies companies that actually do internal work with their employees on prevention of violence against women. So it's actually really, really interesting work. I support the team with my communication and digital content skills. And we've been doing a lot of really, really cool, really interesting work. So that's what I'm doing over here. That's what I will be doing until mid-April before I return to Europe. But in the meantime, I am, of course, still planning super cool things with the Bleeding Metal podcast. I have been recording a few episodes as much as I can. I haven't been able to join my lovely co-hosts for a recording, so that is sad. I miss them all a lot, but we're working on a date to bring you a new episode, a new team episode with all of us together very, very soon. So yeah, that is my update, my little report from Quito. I actually wish it would be a little warmer and a little sunnier. That's what I expected. But, that is climate change. And anyway, I am still enjoying things here very much. And because I miss my co-host so much, I have also brought you a little list of my favorite episodes of the podcast so far, because this episode is a little recap of how 2025 is going. And what I've been enjoying a lot is Pia's episodes with bands. I really enjoyed her talk with Paleface Swiss in January. That was a really cool episode. I also loved Susanna and Martha's episode about their first year in the team. That was a really fun listen as well. And as for me, I really enjoyed my interview with Malavora that just came out, talking about disabilities in the metal community and how we can make the community, the scene, the industry a more accommodating place for people with them. And another super cool episode that was also just released a few weeks ago was with Laura from the Tex Avery Syndrome. And it was a really cool talk. It's always heavy to talk about misogyny in the metal scene, but there were some really interesting and important things that we discussed there. So definitely check all of those episodes out. Recommend them to your friends. Bring them over. The more the merrier, right? And yeah, talking about podcasts, I caught up on my podcasts and I also unsubscribed to some. Not gonna name names. The Metal Sucks podcast. What? Anyway, there are new podcasts that I've started listening to, and the first one that I'm going to recommend is the Sheroes podcast. The Sheroes podcast is about women in the music industry, but on a way larger scope. There are a lot of singer-songwriters and bigger mainstream stars on that podcast. I actually discovered it because of the initiative Book More Women. I started following Book More Women on Instagram a few years ago, and it's a really cool account. Book More Women takes festival lineups, festival posters, and erases the ones that are full on cis male. And so they seem empty. They look empty when you only show the bands that actually have women and non-binary people in them. So yeah, it's a really interesting account to follow. I recommend that. And the woman behind the Book More Women initiative, Abby, was a guest on the She Rose podcast. That's how I discovered that one. So yeah, it's been super cool to listen to that. The production is impeccable. And I really love it. I also asked for recommendations on an Instagram story a few weeks ago. And I think my cousin, I don't remember who, but someone recommended the Y Files to me. That is also a super cool and interesting podcast to listen to that I recommend. It tries to explain mysteries from around the world. And yeah, it's just super cool to listen to stories that make you wonder what's possible. And also just, marvel with these super cool happenings that take place all around the world. And talking about going around the world and or traveling, from time to time when I visit a new city, I check out the Atlas Obscura. And they also have a podcast. So do check that out. It also it talks about places and especially kind of goth, obscure places. So that one is also a really cool one. But yeah, talking about music, because that is what this podcast at least is about, metal music. I have 3 albums to recommend to you. One for each month of this year that has gone by so far. So for the month of January, I chose Vukovi's new album, My God Has Got a Gun, that came out on January 24th. And I had listened to some of the singles. I had watched the music videos that the band released beforehand, but I hadn't really listened to the album as a whole until just a few days ago when I was starting to prepare for this recording. And it is just amazing. It absolutely blew my mind. I love how poppy it is, to be honest, because it is really poppy, but it blends all of these pop and R&B, hip-hop-ish elements with the heavy guitars and drums and vocals, and it is just really cool. The clean vocals are also really nice. And yeah, I just enjoy it a lot. I put it on and I can't stop myself from like dancing a little bit and getting energized. The 2 songs that are my favorite on that album are Gung-Ho and Kitty. So give those a listen for sure. But if you have the time and attention span, please give the whole album a listen. That was my favorite for the month of January, Vukovi's My God Has Got a Gun. And in February, actually on February 14th, Lacuna Coil made a comeback with their album Sleepless Empire. And I hadn't heard from Lacuna Coil for a while, at least in terms of new music, until last year. They came out with a collaboration with Ash Costello called In the Meantime that was already pretty catchy, but still they weren't catching too much of my attention until I almost missed the release even. But when I finally listened to the whole album, I have to say I am impressed, because for their 10th album, the 10th album of their career, Lacuna Coil can still make their music fresh while keeping their style, being the goth fathers and all. The album is very, very Lacuna Coil, but and there are a few moments where I think I've heard this before. And Christina's vocals start playing in my head from a song 1 or 2 albums ago, but then they don't go that way. And they do explore new things. Andrea's harsh vocals are better than ever, and Christina's clean vocals are beautiful. She's not afraid to explore new melodies and use her whole range of vocals. So it's really a nice one. And my favorite on that one was not the Ash Costello collaboration, but the Randy Blythe collaboration called Hosting the Shadow. That one has a vocal melody by Christina in the very beginning that is really catchy and really lovely. So do give Sleepless Empire a try at least. It is a really cool album by Lacuna Coil. And then for March, my favorite album for March is not going to be a surprise for anyone who listens to this podcast or who has heard me talk about Spiritbox before, because, oh my God, Tsunami Sea is amazing. What an amazing album. I am obsessed. I am very diligently learning all of the lyrics to all of the songs because this album is awesome. This one also has a very Spiritboxy flavor to it through it all, but it does vary a lot. When they brought out Eternal Blue, their first full-length release, they had already released so many of the songs as singles that there were just a few surprises left. And then when they released their EP, The Fear of Fear, all of them were singles almost, because all of them were bangers. And so I didn't know how they could make it better. But this time it feels like I know very little of the album, or that I knew. It feels like I knew very little of the album beforehand. And I have so many new songs in a batch to obsess over that I am just loving it. I am enjoying listening to Tsunami Sea so much. Every time I pay more attention to the lyrics and I hear another phrase that hits my feelings and moves my heart, and I start to imagine what could have inspired it, or all of the stories that hide behind those lyrics. And every time it makes the album a new surprise. I still haven't, I've listened to it a lot in the past week since it came out, but I still don't have the feeling that I'm not bored at all. I still don't have the feeling that I know the album well enough. I'm still discovering new sounds, discovering new phrases, discovering new inflections, discovering new ways in which Courtney is using her voice to tell her story and to communicate her feelings. And it is just beautiful. For Tsunami Sea, I have 2 favorites as well. Black Rainbow, but the second to last song, Ride the Wave, that one just, I don't know. I'm absolutely in love with that song. So give all of those songs and albums a listen. As I was telling you, in January, Vukovi with My God Has Got a Gun. In February, Lacuna Coil came out with Sleepless Empire. And now for March, Spiritbox's Tsunami Sea has just got it all. I will do a Pia and go out on a limb and say Tsunami Sea might be my favorite album of the whole of 2025. I am pretty sure of that. I don't think anyone can top it. But yeah, take it as a dare. Come on, give me more, give me better music. I will do a bonus honorary mention to Imminence, because they brought out 3 albums in a year and a half. And okay, one of them is like a special edition of the Black or whatever, but they do have a few new songs. And yeah, they're also doing a really good work. But still, favorite album of the year so far, Spiritbox's Tsunami Sea. Yes, that is it from my part. I hope I did not bore you, just like Tsunami Sea hasn't bored me. and I will see you around. I am still recording a few interviews all the way from here in Quito, but I will be back soon and you will hear me a lot more often. So yeah, stay tuned and see you soon. Bye.
Hello, everyone. Susanna here. How are you all doing? My favorite album of 2025 so far was released very early in the year on January the 3rd, and it is Cursed by Paleface Swiss. Paleface is a deathcore band from Switzerland, obviously. They were formed in 2017, but they are really blowing up right now, which is very well deserved. And it is kind of funny that this is my favorite album so far because it has so many elements that I have been on record on this very podcast saying that I don't like. I don't listen to a lot of deathcore or modern metal, although this is kind of changing for me. And I also don't enjoy rapping so much, which is something that they added a lot to some tracks in this album. But yeah, here I am listening to Paleface Swiss on repeat. Go figure. I think the album won my heart because it is a perfect example of heaviness in the service of conveying emotions. So this is a very emotional album, very dramatic, very heavy. And Zelis, the singer, his voice is just and performance is just perfect for telling stories that are filled with anger, desperation, love. So yeah, I recommend you check out Paleface Swiss Cursed if you haven't already. And I strongly recommend you check their music videos on YouTube, especially three of them, the ones that are connected and were released as a story told in 3 acts. So the first one is My Blood on Your Hands. The second is Love Burns, which is my favorite track on the album. And the third and final part is the song River of Sorrows. It is heavy, it is so beautiful, and it hits you right in the heart. Two other albums that are also high in my ranking so far this year is Dismal Epiphany by Burn Down Eden and Duel by Ginger. Burn Down Eden is a black and death metal band from Germany, and they released Dismal Epiphany on January 31st. I talked to them some weeks ago, so please check that episode out as well. It was a really, really funny conversation. Their album is available everywhere, and they also have music videos for every track on this album on YouTube. And I strongly recommend you check the video for the song Sackbox. Thank me later. And Ginger, of course, needs no introduction. They released their new album Duel on February the 7th. And we also have an episode about it released some weeks ago. Pia, Kiki, and I, we recorded our impressions of the Ukrainians' new work. Please go check that one out as well. That's it from me. Please tell us what your favorite album of the year has been so far, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hello out there. My name is Pia. My pronouns are she, her. And as Susanna and Kiki did before, I want to recommend my favorite albums of the year so far. But before I do that, I want to recommend a band or a project that released their first singles this year. And the project is called Time and the Hunter. It's an inspired music project by Niklas Sundin. You might know him from Dark Tranquillity. He has been the guitar player, and he is still doing the artwork for them. And Enrico Longin from The More, and they are creating something together that you could, of course, call music, but I would say it's pure magic because they give so much of their creativity in it without thinking about commercializing it, that it's really refreshing. And I had the opportunity to have Niklas Sundin in an interview twice. And he's a very interesting character. So if you listen to that one, I had that for Pommes Gabel for his project Mitochondrial Sun. You might feel the music even more. So that's really, really inspiring. And the new album by Mitochondrial Sun is also my next recommendation. It is called Machine Dialectics, and it came out in February. There are 10 new songs. You should know about the project that everything Niklas Sundin does there is just made in Cubase. So he's writing the music, he composes the music on his guitar, and then he puts everything together in Cubase and renders the project, so to speak, and that's the music, the musical output there. But if you don't know that, you might not really notice that because it's done very well. And the new release, Machine Dialectics, I would say it's darker than the releases he had before. It's his third album, I think, or maybe the second, and there was an EP in between. But really, really interesting. No vocals here. On his very first output, he had, I think, a violin and another instrument that were real instruments. But yeah, it's really interesting what technology can do. And I like to listen to music like this, especially when I'm driving home late in the dark. So that kind of keeps me focused. And that's the same with this album here. Another album that I can recommend is something that Susanna already mentioned, and that is the Dismal Epiphany album by Burn Down Eden. I don't really have a lot to add to what Susanna said. It is really, technical and also blackened death metal. I kind of came back to this kind of music. I've been listening to metalcore a lot, but now Burn Down Eden also played a role in bringing me back to the classical melodic death metal. And I also like that they kind of provoke, but not so extreme. That's something that also Susanna was talking about with them in their episode. So check that out if you haven't yet. I just want to read out another song title that is called Fake News for Breakfast. They had a song before about a prepper who believed in all the fake news and everything, and now he had a comeback here, and it's just genius. You should really check it out. I can also link to Susanna with the Paleface Swiss release, because Paleface Swiss, some people would say they are kind of the new Slipknot, or they are very similar to them. I would say that counts more for Pinhead music-wise, because they had their release Ego Messiah out now. If you know the Hirsch Effect, Ilya Lapin, who is the mastermind behind them, is also the mastermind here in Ego Messiah, plus some other musicians that he chose very wisely. They have 12 songs out, and the length of the album Ego Messiah is more than an hour, so you have a lot to listen to here. The variety is very good. I like that a lot. It's hard, it's technical, but still, you can find a lot of melodies. So that's why it reminded me of Slipknot a lot. My favorite track, I would say, is Lone Fall, but you can just choose one and then another. You should listen to 2 tracks at least, and then you can, you might find out what I like about the album. So yeah, that's a very big recommendation. It's a newcomer. It's their debut album. And if you like slightly progressive music, you should definitely check them out. My favorite album of the year so far is March of the Unheard by The Halo Effect, that was released on January 10th. And The Halo Effect is a combination of musicians that have been part of In Flames before, and now they teamed up for The Halo Effect with Michael Stanne as vocalist. And he is my favorite vocalist when it comes to everything. So clean vocals, harsh vocals, everything. I love everything that he does. Also with Cemetery Skyline. And they had some songs out before, but some of them were also surprises. So that's a very, very good album. The title track is genius. And also the others, check it out. It's melodic death metal. I don't know if you can make it any better. This combination is very promising, and I hope that they're around for a long time and that I will have the opportunity to catch them live. So yes, I hope there is something that you can also check out and let us know what you think.
Hey everyone, this is Martha. So in preparation of this episode, I went through all the new albums in my bubble, and when I first started listening, I had a very strong feeling that something is wrong. And this is especially true for all the stereotypic male bands, and I was just feeling very disinterested and really not caring for these stories that keep repeating since the beginning of the respective genre. So in my search for music, week, which is different to everything I have described, I came across an album from last year, which is called The Shape of Fluidity by Dutch band Duel. It's spelled like tool, but with a D. Their singer Raven van Dorst was born a hermaphrodite and assigned female at birth. So today they live as non-binary, and the story is also reflected in the album. So when I listened to it, I felt very captivated by this story, which is also, fused into the vocals, into the music, but also how the music made me feel, and also questioned the difference between how male and female vocals sound like from my hearing habits and how stuck I am with these categories of vocals. So if anyone wants to experience something different from rock and metal norms, check out The Shape of Fluidity by Duel. So after a while, I tried the search for new music again. So first of all, I checked out some of the music of my fellow co-hosts, and I have very mixed feelings. So for example, I really tried to get into the Paleface Swiss album, but it really just isn't for me. The new Ginger album, Duel, in turn, I liked a lot, but I listened to it anyways outside the research for this podcast, and I think it sounds very accomplished. The quality we are used from Ginger, which is of course very high, but also I didn't find it very innovative. Another album that came out very recently was The Sky, the Earth, and All Between by Architects. The whole album is just a very big banger in my opinion. I didn't find a single song I didn't like. It's very versatile with different elements, and what I love most about it is that it keeps the level of energy continuously high, like throughout the whole album. And since I waited so long for the recording of this episode, I still got to listen to the new Spiritbox album, Tsunami Sea. It's also absolutely great in every way. I'm just very sad that their release strategy tends to have a lot of songs released before the album, so I would have liked to be more surprised while listening to the album, but as I said, I love it very much. Also, I had this association that it reminds me of the female version of the Architects album. I can't explain it really, but maybe some of you can understand what I mean. Last but not least, my inner prog metal connoisseur listened to the new Dream Theater album, Parasomnia, and I have such mixed feelings. Of course, it's an excellent album technically, and there's a concept tying it all together and everything, but it feeds into this problem I described to you in the beginning. I am so tired of the stereotypic male prog band, in this case, doing what they always do, even if it's so good. So I hope you like my perspective on some of the new music that came out in 2025 or 2024. Okay, bye-bye.